Hello and welcome to yet another coverage of Alieu Kosiah trial taking place here in Bellinzona, Switzerland. My name is Anthony Stevens. We are forecasting on the third week of Alieu Kosiah's trial. We are forecasting about the third week of the trial, which kicks off tomorrow officially. It's going to be run for 5 days. This is where the lawyers will traverse legal issues. The plaintiff's counsels will make their argument, the defense counsel will make its argument, and the prosecution will make their argument too as to why Kosiah should be found guilty for the 25 charges he's accused of. So starting with tomorrow, the prosecution will take the center stage to explain to the judges. 3 judges are hearing this case. They will have to explain to the judges why Kosiah should be found guilty for each of the 25 charges he's accused of. And some of the charges include rape, cannibalism, torture, forced enslavement, forced transportation, murder, and they will have to explain that. And then afterwards, the plaintiff's counsel, the plaintiff's lawyers will also take the stage to be able to convince the judge to solidify the argument of the prosecution why Kosiah should be found guilty for the 25 charges. And then the whole week will end up with Kosiah's lawyer, who will be able to explain to the judges why his client should not be found guilty, why his client is innocent, and he will be able to have the opportunity for 2 days to justify why he thinks his client is innocent, and that the plaintiffs who lodged a formal complaint against him with Swiss authorities do not know him. They've been mistaking him for a different person. Just before I bring in Giahyue of New Narratives, on Friday there was something dramatic, and just before the session could close on Friday, just before the proceedings could come to an end on Friday, Kosiah's lawyer filed a motion with the court to be able to admit a document. So his ground was that, and throughout this trial, he's been holding the view that the 2 of the people that were named by the 4th and 5th plaintiffs, or the 4th and 5th witnesses for the plaintiffs in this case, are alive, and those were the ones who he brought on Thursday to testify, and he submitted a document to the court to prove that those individuals are alive. And the document contains the photograph of somebody claiming to be the town chief of Pasolahun. All of these men who were allegedly killed by Kosiah are from Pasolahun. They were 2 brothers, according to the plaintiffs, and they were killed by Kosiah allegedly. So Kosiah's lawyer told the court that this man is alive, and the document that he submitted, which was accepted by the judges, was to prove that that 2 of the men in question were alive, and they were the ones who testified last week, and also that the paramount chief of Pasolahun was confirming the status, or was confirming that these people are alive. But crucially, the document does not have any letterhead, even though it says it does carry the signature of somebody claiming to be from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Under Liberian law, on a presumption, on the civil procedure law, if somebody has not been seen or has not been heard from for 7 consecutive years, the person is presumed dead, except there are circumstances that can prove otherwise. And probably that was the reason why Journally brought that to the court, and it was admitted. The plaintiff's counsels said they had no objection to that, so it will be part of his pleading over the next 2 days when he takes the stage to be able to defend his client. We thought to mention that because it was very crucial. Let's bring in James Giahyue of New Narratives, who also has been following these proceedings here at the Federal Criminal Court in Bellinzona, Switzerland. So that looks to be Journalist's trump card, the last motion he made that was accepted by the judges.
Well, let's see how it goes. As you rightly mentioned, it was admitted as an evidence, but I guess it will be viewed, it will be scrutinized by the court. And I mean, we are not in the position now to say what the court will say. Our viewers, we are broadcasting right from this same place, and not very far from a church. This is a football Christianity, and these are kind of the sounds that you hear. And as I was saying, Anthony, we can't explain. I mean, we everything is open. We don't know what will happen.
It's at the discretion of the judges to decide whether the document is valid. But I thought to mention what we saw on the document, that it does carry the picture and the signature of somebody who claims to be a paramount chief of Pasolahun, and also had to serve the law.
Yes, and yes, as I said, the court will look at it and see whether and make a decision. But one thing I know, that the plaintiff lawyers and the prosecution team were contesting that document. They are contesting the authenticity of the document. It doesn't look authentic according to them. So let's see what happens in next week.
Okay, and looking back at last week, the last witness who testified for the prosecution directly accused Kosiah of killing his uncle. He said his uncle had a sugarcane farm and that Kosiah had gone there to ask his uncle for money. His uncle had refused, and Kosiah took his uncle to a nearby place, ordered his bodyguards to take his uncle about 3 to 4 minutes from his uncle's house. And when they went to where he had his uncle tied against stakes, it was a fence of stakes according to him, and then Kosiah allegedly took the pistol that he had on his side and shot him dead. That was another direct accusation of against Kosiah regarding killing somebody on site. We've already heard 2 other witnesses in this trial directly accusing him of killing their relatives, and also we had somebody who testified for the plaintiffs, for the prosecution, that Kosiah shot a little boy, and that the boy was in his house. Kosiah allegedly broke into the house. Ordered his soldiers to break into the house, and when they went there, he asked the boy to join him to on board or pick up the boy. Had refused, and Kosiah took his pistol, allegedly dressed in a camouflage, and shot him dead.
Yes, and just before the last witness you talk about, the defense, the prosecution witness that you talk about, his testimony was very revealing for one fact. The first thing here is that he corroborated with what the plaintiffs and some of the other witnesses who appeared before him, said to the court. For instance, Kosiah was allegedly wearing a camouflage uniform. That's something that we heard before, and that's something that he talked about. Kosiah allegedly had a pistol. That's something that we heard before, and that's something. So you see, that's what the prosecution likes. That's what the plaintiff lawyers like. They want all of the witnesses they brought in this trial, they want their testimonies to corroborate, and that's exactly what these witnesses are doing. Unlike what Kosiah's own witnesses are doing, their testimonies are throwing his defense apart, and it was clear. I interviewed Dimitri Janoli, Kosiah's lawyer, and he wasn't, for instance, happy with the ex-Ulimo frontline commander who said in his testimony that, for instance, Kosiah was a frontline fighter. He was fighting in the Foya area, in the Kolahun area, the Voinjama area, in 1993, 1994, and these are the same years that these plaintiffs and these witnesses are alleging. So things are coming together here for the defense.
Even the person who claimed that he's a child soldier, when he testified last week, he did say on Wednesday specifically, he did say that Kosiah initiated him into being a child soldier. Another thing that he said that also corroborated with the testimonies of the other witnesses from the plaintiffs who have testified in this trial is that Kosiah had a pistol. Kosiah himself said at some point during his testimony last year that he did have a pistol, but he saw that before he left for Foya, and that when he got to Foya, Foya had been captured. And the ex-Unimo general, like you mentioned earlier about, did say that Kosiah was part, and that was very crucial, Kosiah was part of the capture of Foya. Yeah. Kosiah had been part of them, and that Kosiah was his boss. Yeah. Kosiah, through a testimony, did admit that he was the boss of this ex-Unimo general, but he did deny and has denied repeatedly throughout his trial that he was in Foya when he was allegedly captured, because according to him, he was just he was staying totally in Mosurado County, and that UNIMO had advanced on Banga and then on Lofat, and all of that period, during all of that period, he was staying totally in Mosurado County and had no part to play in the capture of Foya, in the capture of Zozo, in the capture of Kolahon. We are about to end this live coverage with you tonight. James Giahyue has been here. My name is Anthony Stevens. You can stay with us for all of the updates about Alieu Kosiah's trial, as the lawyers take the stage beginning tomorrow to give the different reasons why they think Kosiah should be found guilty or why he shouldn't be found guilty. And it will start obviously with the prosecution, because they were the ones who indicted Kosiah. They were the ones who brought up all of the 25 charges against him. So they have to tell the judges tomorrow why they indicted him and why Kosiah should be found guilty for all of the charges. And then the plaintiffs' counsels will take the stage as well, will be able to say to the judges, well, we back these charges against Kosiah by the prosecution, and we think he should be found guilty. And then Kosiah's lawyer will have 2 days for himself to be able to defend his client, to say, my client is guilty, and we expect that he will obviously cite all of the points that he's been citing throughout the course of this trial. Good night. My name is Anthony Stevens.